What's up everybody, Commander Sanctum here, and today we have a brand new deck tech using Judith, Carnage Connoisseur. Judith is a 3/4 human shaman for 3 colorless and a red and black. Her ability says that whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, choose one. That spell gains deathtouch and lifelink, or create a 2/2 red imp creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. These 2 unique abilities allow for Judith to be built in a few different ways. One, likely the more common way, would be to make a Rakdos-based token deck, using instants and sorceries that create creature tokens, and using Judith's second ability to make even more tokens. This deck tech, however, will instead primarily use Judith's first ability, which gives spells deathtouch and lifelink. This ability pairs very well with spells that perform AoE damage. Not only does this turn a ton of spells into effectively board wipes, but it can be a great way to gain a ton of life, allowing us to abuse life gain effects in a more non-standard color pairing for the theme. With that, let's get into the card highlights. Cards that really shine with Judith are ones that deal 1 damage to each creature. These seemingly innocuous cards are turned into board wipes with Judith due to her giving the spell Deathtouch. Blazing Volley and Boiling Earth are great examples of this, alongside End the Festivities, which has the added benefit of doing damage to opponents as well. While the Deathtouch won't matter for the player damage, the lifelink also given to this spell will. If your opponents have a large number of creatures on the battlefield, casting one of these can both wipe the board as well as gain you a ton of life in the process. Smash to Dust is a nice modular card that can also achieve the effects of the previous cards, while Mizzium Mortars does something similar, just with more damage. Again, the damage doesn't matter as much for opponents' creatures due to Deathtouch, but the lifelink aspect of Judith's ability can make this card a huge swing in life totals. Anger of the Gods is another great way to do this, with the added benefit of exiling creatures destroyed with it. Since the spell will have Deathtouch, this will effectively turn a common board wipe into something more akin to Merciless Eviction, exiling the creatures instead of sending them to the graveyard. One of the most fun aspects of these damage board wipes is when you pair Judith's ability with cards that would normally wipe the board anyways, regardless of the Deathtouch. Blasphemous Act and Chain Reaction are board wipes in their own right, but giving these spells lifelink when cast can gain you potentially hundreds and hundreds of life in one go. My personal favorite is Star of Extinction, since it does 20 damage to each creature. Even if there are, say, 10 creatures on the battlefield, which can easily happen in a 4+ player commander game, casting this with Judith's ability would net you a nice 200 extra life. X-based spells can also grant you hundreds of life in one go, particularly the longer the game goes. Starstorm and Earthquake are such examples of X spells that work really well with Judith. They can be either cast cheaply for a quick board wipe if needed, or can be used to gain a ton of life in the later game with Judith's lifelink. Some of the previously mentioned cards deal damage to all creatures, not just our opponents. In these cases, Judith can easily kill herself with her own ability, since damage dealt to her with these spells still have Deathtouch. To help prevent this, we have a number of options to give her indestructible, either for the turn or in a more permanent manner. Agent of the Shadow Thieves is a great way to achieve this, with the added benefit of making her consistently larger while becoming indestructible. Daring Fiendbonder can also make her indestructible with a counter. Getting the Fiendbonder into the graveyard also shouldn't be too difficult given the theme of this deck. Finally, Darksteel Plate is an excellent equipment-based effect to give her indestructible while equipped. Darksteel Plate's cousin, Mithril Coat, is also another way to achieve this. There are also a number of spells that could give Judith indestructible for the turn. While temporary, these spells do have the additional benefit of triggering Judith's ability. Since giving one of these spells lifelink and Deathtouch won't actually do anything, this could be a great way to make some of Judith's imps to eke out some additional damage on an opponent. Armor of Shadows and Professor's Warning are 2 examples of cards that can achieve this temporary indestructible effect. Oblivion's Hunger does as well, with the potential benefit of allowing you to draw a card if Judith has been boosted previously using something like Agent of the Shadow Thieves. One of the main ways to actually win with this deck will be to do direct damage to opponents. Flame Rift is a prime example of how to do this. Fiery Confluence and Blood for the Blood God are additional cards to do this with added bonuses. Fiery Confluence can also hit creatures if need be, while Blood for the Blood God can be a great card draw engine when you've got a low hand. Price of Progress and Acidic Soil are great options as well. These cards get better the longer the game goes on, due to their damage being determinate on land counts of players. The best part of these player damage spells is that Judith's modular ability can be used as needed. There may be cases where you need life, so giving the spells lifelink and Deathtouch is a great way to achieve this. On the other hand, if life isn't an issue, imp tokens can be made instead to help with any attacking or blocking needs. Alongside direct damage spells, there are also some additional win cons that can be used. Since there is a potential for gaining a ton of life in this deck, life-based damage effects can work wonders here. Aetherflux Reservoir is the quintessential life gain based win con and can immediately end a game if paired with Judith and, say, a Star of Extinction cast. Sanguine Bond is another great alternative that can one-shot an opponent out of nowhere depending on the board state. Vashta Narada is a much slower win con, but can become a very effective attacker the longer it stays out. Given its inherent indestructibility and evasion via shadow, this can easily put more pressure on opponents' life totals in tandem with burning them out. Finally, there are a few utility cards that work well with Judith. Fiery Inscription is a great extra damage effect in our spell slinging deck, and is particularly nice because it is an enchantment and thus immune from deathtouch. Past in Flames can give us access to important spells as needed, which is made even more effective due to the fact that the average mana cost of our instants and sorceries is going to be on the lower end. Here is an example deck list utilizing all the previously mentioned cards. Additional cards include a number of spell-based card draw effects, which pair well with Judith's ability, specifically the token creation one, as giving these spells lifelink and deathtouch won't do anything. We also have a few temporary ramp cards like Jessica's Will and Seething Song, alongside a number of mana rocks in order to make sure our mana is set for potentially casting multiple spells a turn. Since we're likely to need to deal with non-creature permanents, there are also a few artifact and enchantment removal spells such as Feed the Swarm and Vandal Blast to make sure we can take care of most types of threats that may be present on the board. This is very much a control type of deck, or at least one specifically geared towards controlling creatures. With effectively 15 or so board wipes, any opponents that have creature heavy decks, such as token decks, will have a very hard time dealing with this. That being said, it is important to note that against creature light or creature list decks, the strategy of this deck will need to be shifted a bit. Thankfully, due to Judith's modular ability, this won't be as big of a deal as it may otherwise be. In these scenarios where opponents aren't casting many creatures, using Judith's second ability, the one that creates imp tokens, will likely be the better option for most spellcasts. This all goes to say that the strategy behind this deck will be very dependent on your opponent's decks. If your opponent is all about creatures or tokens, using Judith's first ability will be able to, potentially rather oppressively, control them from being able to create a large board presence. On the other hand, however, if your opponent's decks are very creature light, creating the imp tokens to then either kill off using your spells to get the AoE damage from the token's effect, or using them to attack will be the more optimal option. If this type of scenario occurs, don't be afraid to cast some of the deal 1 damage to each creature spells, even if they don't do anything. Those spells will effectively turn into create an imp token, as they won't do much otherwise, which is still an effective strategy to create a board of tokens. Another thing to keep in mind is that, as mentioned previously, this deck can be rather oppressive to creature-focused decks. So much so that, if you're left unchecked, you may be in a position where that opponent cannot recover or do much at all. This will likely paint a large target on you and, more specifically, Judith, as the entire deck relies on using Judith's ability to kill their creatures. There will be a large possibility that these opponents will hold removal spells specifically for you when you cast Judith, so playing more defensively and only casting Judith when you have some of the indestructible effects at the ready may not be a bad idea. Finally, since this is more of a control deck, the longer the game goes, the more effective we will be. This is due to cards like Acidic Soil and Price of Progress, which get much better the longer the game goes. Likewise, the longer the game goes, the more we'll have a chance to set up a combo like Aetherflux Reservoir and Star of Extinction, so make sure to keep that in mind when playing, especially against decks that Judith is very effective against. I hope you enjoyed watching this Commander deck tech on Judith Carnage Connoisseur. As always, you can find the full deck list shown in this video on my Arca deck page, which is linked in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more Magic related content. I'd love to hear your opinions on this deck, including any changes to the deck list you would recommend, so please feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.